do it ourselves. That's it. I mean, it's what's the word? It's much more romanticized in people's minds, I think. When you guys imagine it, it's much simpler and kind of real bare bones. I mean, I know people that have studios in their homes. Literally, nowadays you can buy equipment to do this in your bedroom, and I have one of my bedrooms in my home in Houston turned into a studio room where I've written and produced hundreds of songs, like start to finish. And I turned the closet, I padded the closet out, put a screen in there, and a mic, and that became the voice booth, and you would never know it because the technology exists now, and it's so reasonably priced that you can do amazing work right in your own home for next to nothing on your own computer. But that's about it. Yes, ma'am. You, cutie. I love your hat, by the way. It's awesome. Where's your sister? Don't ever give her that hat back. Tell her that it's yours now by divine right. How did I get to be a part of the Full Metal cast? Well, that's a great little question too. I had been doing several shows for Funimation. I had done Broly and Dragon Ball Z, and I also played Berger in the Ginyu Force in Dragon Ball Z. A lot of people don't even know that because, he's this other little small character. But then I did Yu Yu Hakusho, and Kitty Grade, and Case Closed, and Spiral, and yeah. And then Funimation got the license for Full Metal Alchemist. And here's a little piece of trivia that you probably won't know. Justin Cook, who was in Yu Yu Hakusho, he was a director at the time, and he was originally going to be directing Full Metal. But then he got promoted. And he's now head of production. So after he got promoted, they brought in Mike and Colleen to direct in his place. But at the time of auditions, Justin Cook was still going to be directing. So Justin called me one day. Funimation's in Dallas, and I lived in Houston. And Justin called me and said, "Hey, I want you to come up for an audition." And I'm like, "Okay." And he said, "It's this show called Full Metal Alchemist." And I'm like, "Full Metal Alchemist? Okay. I just did Full Metal Panic." Are they related? And he's like, "No." So I got up to Funimation, and I'll walk you through this too. They have a little waiting room area with a table and vending machines and Coke machines, and that's where you go to wait while you're waiting to audition. And what they do is they have these little notebooks with audition sides in them. Now, an audition side is basically one sheet of paper. It's got a picture of the character, a little description of the character, and then a handful of lines that the character would say. And they have page after page in these little books for you to look through when you're coming up to audition. So I'm sitting there in this little room looking through this book of Full Metal Alchemist characters. And I don't know anything about the show. I don't know who's a main character, who's not a main character. I was just looking through to see which ones I felt like I might be able to, that I might be able to be good at. I saw Armstrong, and I'm like, yeah, no. I mean, I could, "Behold my beautiful autistic alchemy." I mean, I could fake that kind of thing, but there are better people for that role, right? They're just people that have a better voice for that. I'm not gonna get cast for that kind of role. So I didn't even bother to read for that. And then I'm looking, okay, Colonel Mustang, okay. I'm looking at it, we're reading it out. And then I'm like, okay, Alphonse, Elric, and he's a little boy, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay. And I'm come across this little kid with this red coat named Edward. Well, I don't even know who he is. So I'm reading the little description. And Justin came out of the studio and he said, "Hey, Vic, glad you came up. You ready to audition?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He said, "Did you get a chance to look through the sides?" And I said, "I did. This guy looks fun." And I pointed to Ed. And Justin got this really weird smile on his face. And he said, "I'm glad because I thought you might be good for him. I was thinking of having you read for him." I'm like, "Okay." So I went in, but we got into the studio, and this is where it got weird. Usually you go in and you read the lines on the piece of paper, right? There would be like 5 lines and you would do them, and then the director would go, okay, yeah, that was good, make him a little younger, or slow it down a little bit, or make him a little more sinister, or, you know, he'll give you a little redirect and you'll try to make adjustments and do it again. Well, we got into the studio and Justin said, we need to do something a little different here, Vic. And I said, okay. And he said, Otakon in Baltimore, big convention in Baltimore, is in 3 weeks, and Larkensiel is going to be the band performing at Otakon, and Aniplex wants to premiere the first episode of this show at Otakon. And he said, so I'm going to have you record the whole first episode. That's the Cornello episode, right? In Lior, first series. Well, now, he didn't cast me. I wasn't cast. It was still an audition. But they needed to prepare a temp version to show it at Otakon. So as soon as we start recording this first episode, and Ed's like freaking every other line, I'm like, holy crap, this is a big character. This guy's a pretty large character. And then I realized he's the Full Metal Alchemist of Full Metal Alchemist. And so I started getting kind of like, wow, it's like a big role. We finished the episode, they showed it in Baltimore, but they were still casting. They were not prepared to confirm anyone as having a role. In fact, I'll let you know something. There were people that were on that original recording that they showed in Baltimore that did not end up getting cast. They got recast. Because, another thing you may not know, when a big show like Full Metal or Bleach or Naruto or something like that, when those shows get cast in English, the Japanese make those decisions. The company that owns the show makes that decision because they want to make sure that that show is represented in English exactly the way they want it represented. So all Funimation was doing was recording the auditions and then shipping them off to Tokyo for Aniplex to listen to and go, no, 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 maybe, no. Okay, we like him for that. We like this girl for her. And that's how people were getting cast for Full Metal Alchemist. But months went by, and they weren't making I hadn't heard any decision about Full Metal. I just recorded that first episode, and that's all I did. And then something even weirder happened. I got a call from a game studio in Dallas saying, we need to record the Full Metal Alchemist video game because they want to release it at the same time as it hits Cartoon Network, so we need to get on it now so that it'll be done, right? So you need to come in and play Ed. But you're not cast yet. We don't have a confirmation. Do you know what that means? That means that if they had replaced me, the first video game would have my voice on it as Ed, and then some other guy the whole rest of the time. So I did it, and then, hi Kitty. So I did it, and then at some point, months after the original audition, I got a call from them, and they said, okay, the Japanese like you as Ed, you're Ed. And it took a long time to find out about that. But, and you want to hear the best part, you guys? As fans, you're going to love this story. During the time that it premiered at Otakon, and I waited to get cast, and then I got cast, and several months passed before we started recording, I started getting letters from fans. Now, remember what I told you at the beginning of the talk? I'd done 40 or 50 shows at this point, and I had never gotten emails like this. Before the show even started, before I ever recorded the show, I was getting mail from fans going, hey Vic, my name is so-and-so, and I heard you just got cast as Edward Elric in Full Metal Alchemist. You better not screw it up. I am not kidding you. I was terrified. I was like, holy crap. They're gonna kill me. I got a lot of them. They're like, Funimation is known as Dragon Ball Z, and I was very troubled when I heard that they got Full Metal, and I hope they don't destroy it, and you better not ruin Edward Elric, I love him. I mean, and I was kind of nervous. So when I finally went in to record the first episode, and we did it over again, I was filled with a little bit more, what's the word? Trepidation, a little more apprehension, like, I was much more relaxed when I had no idea what this was. Yeah, terror is a good word. And so, fear. Yes, fear leads to the dark side. So we started, and I literally said to them, I was hearing Romy, the original Japanese actress, Seiyu. I was hearing Romy in my ear. And I said to the directors, I can't sound like that. She's, number one, she's a female. And I mean, you know, she's got a higher voice, much higher voice than I do. And I'm like, do you want me to try to push my voice higher? I mean, do you want me to go higher or try to make him whatever? And the director said, no. Your audition that we sent to the Japanese is what they want. They want that. That's what they liked. And they wanted him to sound more masculine in English than he sounded in the original. So that's why they actually ended up choosing a guy to play the boy instead of a girl, which is typical. Younger boys often get voiced by girls. In fact, they tried a lot of girls for Alphonse's character. Monica read for among others, read for Alphonse. But as luck would have it, Funimation happened to have this little 12-year-old boy who had already done some stuff in Fruits Basket, and he was just a cute, little, talented kid who could read really well and very expressive with his voice, and it was like perfect, because, I mean, gosh, Al's, you know, around that age, and here's a boy around that age. It was perfect. And you know what the best thing was? And you know why they chose him? Why they ended up choosing a little 12-year-old instead of a grown-up professional actress? Because Al doesn't have mouth flaps. Bet you didn't think about that, did you? He's a metal box, metal helmet, right? If that poor little 12-year-old had to match the mouth flaps and perform, probably wouldn't have happened. I mean, even without the mouth flaps, poor little Al, poor little Aaron, he'll tell you, even now, he would record for 15 or 20 minutes and then he would get stir crazy in the little box like a classic little kid who like, I want to go do something else now. I'm getting all antsy and being cooped up in this room. And so, you know, they had to work with him and promise to give him things and promise to let him play some video games. They would be like, if you do 3 more lines, Aaron, we'll let you go play Halo for 15 minutes. Literally, they bribed him to get him, you know, but that's what they had to do. But that's why they ended up being able to use Aaron at such a young age, because Al didn't have any mouth flaps. That's one of the hardest things to do, is perform the line and match the mouth movements at the same time. It's very tricky. So that's how I got it, and that's how I ended up playing that role. How are we on time? I know we started really late, so when are we supposed to stop? Well, we're supposed to stop at 5 had we started at 4, but what time did we start? Right. What time, can somebody from staff tell me? Even though we started late? Okay, well, I want to get to as many questions as possible. Yeah. Do I what? Ed and envy? That's kind of incestuous, isn't it? Envy is like Ed's brother, right? Well, not in brotherhood, that's true. But see, I can't distinguish, I can't separate the two. Not only that, but you know what? I always get in trouble when anyone ever asks me a question about envy, and when I refer to envy, I refer to envy as she, this or that. Well, that's because Wendy plays her, and I know Wendy, and I think of Wendy as envy. In fact, I write Wendy, I call her Wenvy. I literally make, hey, Wenvy, and W-E-N-V-Y. No, I know, I don't support